Hi, and welcome to our next module in our series to help you become a better leader. To remind you, the aim of these modules is to reduce your psychological pressure by providing you with validated, easy to apply models. And this week, we're going to be looking at coaching. Coaching is about unlocking a person's potential. It's a dialogue between you and a counterpart that's outcome oriented and solution focused. This gives it a hard edge. It's not counseling and it's not a chat. But there's a fundamental philosophy about coaching, and that is that the person you're working with has the answers within them, and it's your role as the coach to help uncover those answers. In this respect, coaching is more about learning than about teaching. And because of this, it requires you to ask questions rather than give instruction. This has proven to be very difficult for most of us because we all want to help, and that leads us to try and provide the answers. So what we're going to do is to look at a model which will help you to empower the other person to help them to unlock the answers within them. Now, the benefits of coaching are endless, and you can stop this video at any time you like and read some of those benefits on the slide. But let's push on now. Before you begin coaching, it's really important to determine what does the other person need from you. And to do this, we use the will skill matrix. Now, the will skill matrix is a way of classifying what type of coaching the person needs from you. Now, research suggests that someone's desire or their will or their motivation to do a job is equally important, if not more important, than their skill. Simply, if a person has the skills to do a job, but they're not motivated, if they don't have the will to do a job, then it's unlikely that they'll apply their skills into doing that job or to doing it well. And so you need a repertoire of questions and prompts that you can ask in each of these four quadrants that we've got on the screen here, depending on their will, skill, and whether they need direction or guidance or motivation or inspiration or to be stretched. This concept of having a repertoire of questions is really important. And when I started executive coaching, I used to carry 60 questions with me all the time that helped me, or forced me to be quiet and not provide the answers, but to ask questions to help unlock the answers within the person I was working with. If you're interested, please just message me and I'm happy to share some of those questions with you. Before we look at the model, I think a word on goal setting. Personally, I think that the SMART acronym that many of you probably are aware of is a little simplistic when it comes to how the human brain learns. Of course, it's important that goals are SMART. They have to be specific, meaningful, achievable. There has to be a time frame attached to them. But I've found this model on the screen to be far more useful when it comes to learning and growing and building new skills. It's the zone of optimal functioning. And explained simply, if something is too hard, it will cause anxiety. And if it's too easy, people will get bored. Looking at it more closely, the model's based on the fact that we achieve ideal learning or optimal learning when we're in this flow state, when we're fully absorbed in the activity, when we're deeply involved and engaged with the work. And it turns out that this is far more likely when the task is at the limits of our capability, when we're pushing our limits. All success requires perseverance and sustained effort. You've got to work at it. And it seems like accelerated learning occurs when we're being stretched and challenged, when we're at the limits of our capacity, when we're pushing our knowledge base, and when we're getting better. So think about the people in your team and the tasks that they're engaged on. Where would they sit on this graph? And do you need to make some of their challenges a little bit more complex and a little bit more challenging? Or are they already too hard and people are becoming overwhelmed and anxious by them? When you think of that, think about this next slide. passion is developed far more than it's discovered. As you get good at something, you're more motivated to learn more about it, and your performance improves in that area. So motivation, learning, and performance have a reciprocal relationship. Think about motivation as motive in action. In that sense, motivation's a process, not a product or an outcome. We actually do motivation. You've got to do it to feel it. So think about your team, think about the tasks that they're engaged on, and think about whether there's enough actual doing. Most of our learning comes from doing, and learning rarely happens by osmosis. So make sure that you're setting challenging activities for your team when they're actually doing and practicing and actively involved in real work. But let's look at the model now. Most of you will be familiar with the GROW model. It was popularized by Sir John Whitmore. The G is for the goal. It's really important to have a goal or something that the person that you're working with wants to achieve. What are they working towards? This stops it from being just a chat. So setting a goal is really fundamental. It doesn't have to be the starting point. Many of us start at the R, the reality, where we talk about what's happening now, what's the experience for the person at the moment. It doesn't matter where you start, as long as you anchor and ground the conversation towards achieving a particular goal. The O is for options and obstacles. Okay, so what could you do? What could you try? What are the options? What's stopping you from achieving the goal? Have a conversation around the options, what they could try to achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve. The W is for wrapper and for will. What will they do? If you remember in delegating effectively, we talked about the fact that it's not enough to simply say, what will you do? You need to be able to qualify and quantify that. I like to ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to try these things that we've agreed on today? How likely are you, or how committed are you to putting in place this action plan that we've agreed to? No matter where you start in the model, you always need to check in with the goal, and have you set the right action plan that will help you to achieve the goal? Coaching turns any interaction into an opportunity to have a structured, solution-based conversation. Before we finished, I don't want you to think that it's onerous or that you have to spend a long time in the coaching process. There's this concept called SNAP coaching, which is really just 4 questions. I use SNAP coaching like this. What do you want to see happen? What's happening now? What are some of the options? And what are you going to do? So try GROW coaching, use the model, set a goal, talk about the reality, talk about some options, and get a commitment to what they will try. Talk to you next week. Thank you.